Good morning, Villa Park. This is Al Stasch. Welcome back to Uptown Villa Park. It is now January 2017. It's been a long time since we've been on the air with you, but we've got a great guest today, and that is Al Bulthuis. How are you, Al?
I'm just fine. Glad to be here.
Great, great. Al is a trustee with the Village of Villa Park and running for village president in the April election, so we're going to get into a lot of that. And next to him, on his right, is Dennis Keating. How are you, Dennis?
Fine, how are you? How's your holiday?
Good. I'm asking you first. How was your holiday?
Fantastic.
You got like a whole gaggle of grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Did you see them all?
We see most of them. We had 24 for dinner.
24 for dinner. Who
Yeah.
cooked? Your wife?
Yep.
Joanne cooked.
Joanne cooked.
What she
and
cooked?
all the kids bought something,
Yeah.
Somebody bought potatoes, somebody bought...
Potluck.
Yep.
Yeah. How was it? Good?
Fantastic.
And did Santa Claus come by?
Santa Claus did not come, but
No.
all the gifts came.
Oh, that's good. That's good. He probably delivered
Very
them.
expensive.
Yeah, that's
we
true.
have
I'll bet you Santa Claus came in a wheelchair.
yeah, we had 10 great grandkids.
10 great-grandkids.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's
Wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
How young is the youngest?
4 months old.
4 months old.
We went from 4 months to 80 years old. A group.
That's a couple of generations. Almost 3, right?
Wonderful.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Sid, how was your holiday season?
And again, it was a typical Christmas, New Year's holiday for me, spending time with the families. And New Year's was something that I've done the last many years, is sit home in my recliner with the dog and just watch the ball come down from New York and then celebrate it and call people, said Happy New Year.
Yeah, great. That's-
And
yeah, go ahead.
It was very appreciated getting a phone call New Year's Eve. It was. It was fun.
I did do that. I called all my friends and relatives, not all,
Both of them.
several I
Both
know.
of them.
Don't worry, you called me. It was okay. It's okay. No excuse.
And
I guess I'm not on the friends list. I didn't get a call,
You
so
didn't make that list. It's always good not to make the list.
especially a
But this
midnight
one-
call.
This one's different.
I think I just made a faux pas.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You said most friends.
Al is a neighbor, almost.
That's true.
Really?
So, yeah, and anyway, it was fun. And it was really good talking to all the people, especially those that I haven't seen or talked to for a long time.
Sure.
And I would advise you folks that that's a good thing to do. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a good way. Years ago, I used to call myself a celebrant, not celebrant, but one that would celebrate New Year's Eve. And fortunately, I never had an accident. And then later on, we said, okay, New Year's Eve, we'll leave New Year's Eve for the amateur drinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we'll stay home or stay at least sober, stay in town.
Yeah.
And I'd advise people to, of course, in days of yore, we got away with a lot more than we can now when it came to consuming alcohol.
Yeah, we definitely agree with that because I was at a all-department meeting with our village police department, and 6 of our officers were awarded for their work in stops for DUIs here at Villa Park. And, that's not just Villa Park residents, it's people driving through town as well. But we run a public service announcement all the time that talks about that. You don't have to be stumbling drunk to be affected by alcohol when you're driving. So that's a good message for people, even now, even after the holidays. Don't drink and drive. That's a poor decision, always. How was your holiday, Mr. Bulthuis?
My holiday was just fantastic. The kids were over. I have one grandson. They came over, and it was very nice.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a small group, so my wife did the cooking too. So
Yep.
Hey, don't have any excuses. That one grandson got all of the attention.
he got a lot of presents. I can guarantee you that.
Oh,
And he enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah. Let's open it one gift at a time, and each time it's
Oh,
a big
yes.
deal. Yeah? That's great. That's great. Well, I had a great holiday too, and I hope everybody in the audience does too. The only thing that happened with me that was different was if you check my Facebook page, I actually had an accident in my driveway. It's crazy to think about something like that, but I was switching cars going to a family Christmas event, and pulled the 1994 Chevy Astro van that everybody's seen me driving around as a jalopy in town with all kinds of issues. And started into the driveway and realized as I'm approaching the garage that I have no brakes. The brakes completely failed. And for those of you know automobiles now, they have a front and a rear chamber, so usually you don't get both of them to leak out. I did. So I was traveling directly toward the garage, and at the last minute I said, I can't hit the garage. And I turned left and went through a cyclone fence, and the fence acted as a net and stopped the vehicle. Well, that was the last time I drove that car. And I've got a new one, and I'm glad to have a new vehicle. And the nice thing about it is everything works in the car, which is a thrill. I mean, the windows go up and down. I don't have to walk up to the drive-through at the bank anymore and open my door and things like that. So I had a great holiday, and the family was wonderful. We had a good time at home. So let's now get to our guest. Mm-hmm. Mr. Bulthuis, tell everybody in the audience who you are.
Well, I'm a 30-year resident here in Villa Park, and enjoyed every minute of it. So I originally lived in Westmont, but I moved here 30 years ago. So when our family got a little bigger, we needed a bigger house, and Villa Park was a great community to move to. So my background is I had a construction supply business for 30 years.
Okay.
And then in 2008, I closed that up when the recession started because the construction business was dead. And then I took about 10 weeks off, and figured retirement wasn't for me, because I was retirement age at that point. And I went out and called a friend of mine who had another construction supply repair business, and called him up, and I went over to work for him in Addison. And that's where I'm at now. So, and then in, what was it, 09, I think it was, I ran for the village board, and I've been on there now 10 years. So.
Nice. Well, before you were on the village board, you also volunteered for other components of the village community.
Right.
And that was a couple of commissions. Tell us about that.
Well, I started out being the Traffic and Safety Commission.
Okay. What do they do?
Let's make the simple part is if you decided that maybe you as a resident would like a stop sign on your corner.
Yes.
You've seen some incidents there.
I'd like a stop sign in front of my garage.
You could probably use that, and some bumpers too. So, and you would then come to the Traffic and Safety Commission, and they would evaluate it and make a recommendation to the board if they feel it's warranted.
Okay.
You know, it could be that, could be you complaining about speeding down your street, you know, and you could bring that to the Traffic Safety Commission, and they can, ask the police department to put some monitors out there, those little square things you see out in the road every now and then. They pick up speed and the number of cars counts and what time of day. So that's what Traffic and Safety does, any issues like that. Okay. And also, then I was on a liquor commission for a short period. And basically what that commission does is...
They go around with axes and they bust up barrels of liquor.
No, well,
Not at that time.
Not at that time. That was maybe about, 60 years before?
About 80 years
80
ago.
years, is it?
Sid would know.
Sid knows. So if there's an establishment in town who violates our liquor ordinance by serving to minors or, being open at the wrong hours, past the closing times, or if there's incidents in there, where there be a hearing about any enforcement of their breaking the rules, that's what that commission would hear.
Okay.
It's not that often that happens, so that's what they did on that.
But that's different
How do
from...
those cases come to you?
They generally come through the police department
Okay.
because there was probably some police activity or something. So
Yeah. Now, that commission, liquor commission, is different from liquor permits, right?
right, the president of the board issues liquor permits
For new permits.
for new and renewals.
Okay, right.
So that's the president's authority to do that, not the commission.
So the liquor commission is ongoing maintenance of those
Right.
businesses.
Hearing, basically.
Okay.
So
Al, isn't that with the consent of the board?
you're
The
the
village
members.
board?
The members are
Yeah.
appointed by the village board.
And the village board would
They'd authorize
take
any
it,
actions.
Do with the action of the president. Has to concur with the action of the president? No.
No, they concur with the issuing of the license.
No, okay.
But if there's any enforcement that doesn't come back to the village board, the liquor commission handles that.
Well, that's good. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
good. It's good to know. So you can make decisions and move on. Get
Right.
it fixed.
Usually if there's a hearing, there's an attorney present
Okay.
with the village side and to make sure we do
So
everything.
it's actual testimony, like the
Yes.
adjudication court.
Not,
kind of.
not quite as formal, but
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Now, you know, I get to roam around the village a lot, and I see every once in a while the other commissions currently today.
Mhm.
And you've got involvement, I mentioned the adjudication court. Every once in a while I see you monitoring and watching that.
Mhm.
And the economic development, I know you go to their meetings at
Right.
times, right?
Right.
What other ones have you been observing in your trustee duties?
Well, I pretty much go to every planning and zoning commission meeting
Okay.
and to observe. I am sort of their liaison to that commission. If they need another board member on the commission, you know, and I can help get that.
And report back to the
And-
board what they're doing?
Right, and report back. It's always interesting meeting to attend. You get a little feel what's going on in the village before you actually see any construction or anything. So
Right.
that's, I like to hear that firsthand rather than have to read a long report. So
And
a little
it's got a
easier.
different flavor when you see it testimony.
Absolutely, and it's
discussion.
a formal setting. There's actual court recorder there, records all the testimony from the applicants and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And
That's
just
good.
a program note for everybody that's watching, the planning and zoning meetings, we do record and broadcast live when they have them, which is scheduled to be a Thursday evening at 7 p.m., the third Thursday of the month. Now, here in January,
Second Thursday.
second Thursday. So here in January, there is no meeting because there are no people petitioning the Planning and Zoning Commission for action. But in February, they do have a meeting. So the second Thursday in January, thanks for the correction, there'll be a meeting.
Right, and we also, that commission can use another commissioner.
Ah, that's right.
So if anybody out there is interested in serving on that, they can send go online, pull down the application for commissions and send that off to the village president.
Do I have to be qualified to get on that commission anyway?
I haven't seen any real qualifications yet. You know,
Okay.
we're always looking for a member, but you should have some background, not just, you know, I want to do it, but it helps if you have some background in
Yeah,
building and
and
zoning.
to give my thumbnail description of what they really do is they look at proposals from developers or businesses that want to come into town and have a variance in the way that they implement their new business, whether it's a new building, construction, or the layout of the property, whatever it might be. So it's an evaluation of plans that they bring. It's an evaluation of their proposal to the village. You have to know about ordinances. What do you call it when the R2C1?
Zoning districts?
Zoning districts, so that you are aware of what's possible in each of the districts. And they've got a great core there that knows the business of planning and zoning. But like you say, it's always good to have a new, fresh face in a lot of these commissions.
You know, if somebody comes in, let's use an example. There's going to be a Wendy's on North Avenue.
Right.
Over in front of the Foreman Mills. And they came in, and that's a special plan unit development there. And they came in with their design, what they wanted to put there, the facade, what it's going to look like, the building materials they're going to use. Those are all things that the planning and zoning looks at.
Right.
You know, how big is the sign going to be? What's the square footage of the sign? Does it meet our ordinances? And, you know, we would like to see, are you going to cover the cooling and air and heating units on the roof so they're not visible from the street? You know, are you going to do plantings? Are you going to meet our ordinances with the plantings around the building? Because we don't want just a, you know, bunch of concrete and asphalt around it. Are you going to do, how's your lighting going to be? Is it going to affect any neighbors? All that type of thing that they go over.
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, I've heard in conversations away from the television that we do and the meetings, you know, people say, oh, Villa Park is so difficult to deal with from a business perspective. They're always causing troubles. And, you know, I look at that and I see, you know, we've got some pretty significant businesses that have come here.
Mm-hmm.
Not only your big franchise names, like Dunkin' Donuts and Chipotle, right next to where this is going to be, and Wendy's now, but, and Bone Roofing,
Yeah.
They came in from Chicago after 40-some
Right.
years. They have a beautiful
We have a
facility.
Bob's Discount Furniture over on
Yeah,
Roosevelt
Bob's.
Road.
I just bought a
Foreman
bed
Mills.
set there, yeah.
Right.
And you say, well, how can the village be difficult? Well, the village is difficult because we adhere to our ordinances. That's there for the people of Villa Park to say, this is the way we want our businesses to be included in the community, not whatever the business says. Because there are always little questions and kickbacks that the Planning and Zoning Commission says about any plan, right?
Right. So one thing we did implement a couple years back, it makes it easier for businesses who want to come in town, like the Wendy's and the Foreman Mills, but they're going to do any changes to the property.
Yeah.
So normally they have to go through all blueprints and spend a lot of money on design and architectural work, and then they come to the Planning and Zoning. We set up a plan preview where they can come in with their concept, with their simple drawings, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission will look in the community development and looks at it and say, okay, will this fit what your concept? Will that fit in with our zoning regulations?
Yeah, the first test.
The first test.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost them anything. They don't have to pay for publishing that they're going to have a meeting and going through actual architectural drawings. So we did that, and that makes it a lot easier for businesses to come in to Villa Park now that we put that into effect. So I was happy we were able to get that going.
And that's a great thing, and I've seen that with a couple of the efforts for the strip that's now Dunkin' Donuts and Chipotle.
Right.
They did that.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing because just like the village, our business partners that come into the community have to spend a lot of money consultants to get all this stuff done,
That's right.
as we do for projects that we are involved in. So it's better to avoid that
Mhm.
if you don't have to, right?
Makes us more friendly to the businesses to come in.
I
So.
agree. I agree.
And then I also sit on the Economic Development Commission,
Okay.
and that's again a group of people who live in town who are on the commission. Some of them are business owners in town, and we look at ways to promote Villa Park.
Mhm.
You know, so and that meets once a month on the third Wednesday at 5:30.
So you're here basically every night of the week.
Well, I'm
Could
here
be.
quite a few. You know, someone asked me a couple years ago, how many hours do you actually spend being a trustee? Because they were thinking of running for office. You know, well, that made me sit down and log for a
About 20.
month my time.
What'd you come up with?
I came up with between 20 and 25 hours a
Yep.
week.
A week, yeah.
So it's like a half-time job. You know, it's not
Right.
full-time, but it's most people work 40 hours, and that's another 20 on top of
And
it.
I think
So
per
how
hour
did-
you're making less than
I don't even want to figure
restaurant
that
worker.
out. I don't want to figure that out.
Well, and if you're anything like me and Dennis, or Dennis and I should say, we enjoyed every minute of it. It was really a good thing, far, far better than just a pastime.
Mm-hmm.
And we also knew things about the village, and we could say, instead of complaining, we knew why certain things happened.
That's right.
That-
It's real
Mhm.
interesting, and you meet some really nice people. You know, that's when you find out how good the residents are in Villa Park. So,
Yeah, yeah.
people willing to work, and these commission members, they don't get paid. You know, it's all on their time.
Yeah.
So, and I know, like the planning and zoning, those people put in a lot of time reviewing all that stuff before the information
Sure.
before the meetings.
Right,
So,
right. Dennis, you want to say something? You look like you're
I
jumping.
forgot.
You forgot? Okay, okay. All right, let me ask you a more pointed question about your role as a trustee.
mhm.
Take you back to 2009,
Mhm.
I think. What said to you, go from those commission duties to run for trustee? What made you run?
Well, to be honest with you, what made me run is at that time, if you think back to 2007, 2008, there was a little the board didn't really work too well
Little
together.
turmoil.
A little turmoil on
Yes,
the board.
yeah.
And one night I was just I was watching it on the cable, and I came to some of the meetings, and I just said to myself, "This has to stop."
Yeah. Thanks for the
Okay.
plug, by the way.
Yeah, this has to stop.
Yeah.
And how do you stop it? You know, I always believe if you want to make a change, you have to be involved. You have to be on the inside to make the change. You just can't stand on the outside and shout. You have to actually get in and do it. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to help the village to get some harmony so we could actually move forward. Because when there's controversy on the board, developers see that,
Right.
and then they sort of shy away. You know, the neighboring communities see that, and then people don't want to move into town.
Right.
So you can't have that, and that's what made me really run for office.
But the biggest problem I had when I was on the board is you all vote the same way all the time. Don't you ever make your own decision?
Hmm. Well,
That's not true lately on this board either. by the way.
No.
no. See, is that good or bad?
No.
No,
The voting,
the
but
people,
protocol
they
is-
want they want two decisions. You know, they want
Yeah, they want to hear both sides.
both sides.
You know, I think that's one of the things. You know, how much of controversy do you want during the board meeting?
That's right.
So,
But the level that you're talking, I mean, controversy is in yelling
right, you don't
across
want
the
that.
dais
But
versus
disagreement
discussion
is healthy.
that's different. Is
Right.
healthy.
I was on the cable commission back in 2007 and 8, and I tell you, we had the biggest audience ever.
I know. It was good for the cable.
People were watching it all the time.
Yeah, I hear it. And now we're boring.
Now you're very boring. No, but they had parties in town on Monday night
I know.
at the golf course. They had people getting together, watching the meeting all over.
Yep. Yeah.
For all the wrong reasons.
Well, no, it's just like you said. Villa Park is very hard to work with. Come down,
Yeah.
every town is the same way. They
Yeah.
say the same thing about every hometown.
Yeah, they say that, but I can tell you for sure, in my opinion, that's not the case in Bulthuis. There's a lot of good working relationships
Yes,
between
there is.
developers and
Yes, there is.
people. Even those that end up not coming here. I mean, all the work that's done for some of these big projects that we've seen recently, and acquiescence to certain requests is a very positive thing for developers to hear, and we've got a good group working on that. All
Well,
right,
we've
go
worked on in the last, not 10 years, but I'd say the last 8 years, we worked on making the village more friendly, more easy to work with.
That's right.
And I think, I can be self-serving. I think I can take some credit for that because we've changed the procedures and we changed personnel to make it more friendly and welcoming
and professional.
and professional.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
All right, let me get into now your role, not in the big picture, but some of the projects or events or things that happen while you were trustee. And I understand that trustees don't by themselves do things.
Right.
But in the group that you were in, what are some of the things you're most proud of in those 10 years or about 10 years that you've been on the board?
Well, there's a number of things that I changed. Well, I didn't change, but I brought them forward so that they could be changed. One thing would be the crime-free housing program, which has made quite a difference in town. We got that. It took about, I'd say I was on 10 years. It probably took about 6 years to actually get people on board. And I don't think we want to go through the whole how that process works, but what that does is
If I own an apartment building and I got some bad tenants, how do I get rid of them?
right, that's what it does. It helps educate landlords what their rights are as landlords, because you always hear what the rights are of the tenants, but the landlord has right what they can actually do. I use one example. When I first got married, we had a 6-flat, and my wife and I managed. We had no idea what we were doing, And a lot of people, they do. They have one house. Maybe they have a house that was mom and dad's, and mom and dad went to a assisted living facility, but they were renting it out. The kids were to help pay for that. But they didn't know what their rights, if they got a bad tenant, how to get them out.
Yeah.
So it was an education for the landlords, which helped them and helped the village by getting some bad tenants out of town.
And one of the provisions of that plan is to have on the lease certain agreements that
Right.
come into play before they actually move in, which is and they had a man who deals with that come up and do a meeting for all of the property owners, multi-tenant owners
Right.
here in town, that talked about how you do a background check, et cetera, on the new tenants. which
Most
you-
people don't do it.
No.
They
no.
don't do it, especially a small
Yeah,
one.
and how important that is up front because you don't get into that
Yeah.
problem. Because it's not easy to evict someone, right?
No, it's not. No, when you do a background check, like that gentleman that came, he told them, what can you ask? What
Right.
questions can you legally ask them?
Right.
You
And there
know.
were a lot of questions I thought were not legal,
Mm-hmm.
but you can.
And then the lease addendum, which you referred to, that the tenants signed right up at the beginning. When they get, here's what, if you do these things wrong, you can be evicted, and you agree to it,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is a big help.
Which helps if you have to get to that
Right.
level. Right.
Unfortunately, not all landlords follow the program, but if there's an incident at their properties where the police are called, the owner of property is notified,
Yeah.
and then he has to make corrective actions. And if he doesn't, if it happens again, then he gets in a little bit of a hot seat too.
Well, one of the things that came up in that discussion as that was being implemented here in the village recently was the fact that, the overriding fact that the village of Villa Park is non-home rule.
Right.
So it had real impact on how stringent you could be in those types of ordinances.
Right.
Do you find, this is just me asking, do you find non-home rule to be a major hindrance to the village of Villa Park?
In that respects, it was.
Yeah.
If we want to just narrow with the housing issue, it was. We wrote the law, made it as strict as we could as a non-home rule community.
Right. Up to the edge that you
Up to
could.
the edge.
Yeah.
And that's what we decided. We'd go right up as far as we could, and we weren't challenged on it at that. But the state has made some changes in what can be done with the crime-free program. Which
They pulled back a little bit.
they pulled back the state. They made it a state law. But again, it basically a lot of it applies just to a non-home rule community. Home rule communities have a little more leeway.
Right.
So it is a little bit of a, holds us back a little bit.
Yeah. The other thing, and I think this is more positive than negative, is that in order to do major projects like the road projects, like the pending sewer water projects, you have to go to referendum.
Mm-hmm.
The trustees themselves cannot vote for a tax
Right.
increase, correct?
That's correct.
And your opinion on that?
I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
That you get community
The
support.
library's coming up.
The
That's another-
library's coming up, and in a way, it makes the job as a trustee a little easier, because the burden's not on the trustee. Put it out there, let the voters decide if they want to have if they want to spend the money for that. So
Right.
I'm all for that. So let the voters have as much say as we can.
So there's good and bad to
Mhm.
everything sometimes. All right, let me ask you.
I can
talked
tell you
about-
something else I did too. If you
Sure,
want.
please.
I also put in the vacant housing ordinance. So
Okay.
if the house, let's say it was in the 80s when the crash started, a lot of people lost their homes in town. We had a
Foreclosures,
lot
yeah.
of foreclosures, empty houses,
Mhm.
and we had no idea who was in charge of those houses. If there's an issue there, the maintenance issues.
The grass.
Grass is growing.
Yeah.
So I proposed that we put in an ordinance that would require whoever owns that house, you can find that out through the county, what bank owns it.
Right.
They need to register that house, contact people, whoever their contacts with the bank or whoever's in charge of it, so that if there's an issue there, the village can contact them, and they're the ones that would get the code violations.
Okay.
But we also put a fee on it, so that when they registered, they had to pay a fee, which covered our expenses for the paperwork and the record and having that information on the file. So the vacant building ordinance, that helped us with some of the property maintenance on empty houses, and
Yeah.
still goes on today. So
That's good. That's good. And that applies to businesses as well, correct?
yes, it does. If it's been a foreclosed and it's vacant, with nobody maintenance, it would fall under them too. So.
Okay, good. I'm going to ask you something. There may be nothing on this list, but I just want to ask you anyway. What's the most difficult decision you made? The one that you didn't want to make, but you had to?
Well, the most difficult one I had, you asked me about this before we started filming here.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think while we were having a discussion what it was, and I'm still trying to think, I would say the toughest one, there were two. The off-track betting facility
Yes.
on North Avenue
Right.
and the video gaming.
Okay.
So those were the two hardest ones I think I've had. See, I'm not a gambler, but I'm not in a position where I can dictate to what other residents want to do and people who want to come into town.
Within legal limits.
Okay.
Right.
Within legal limits.
You're not approved, but at the same time, had they paid off?
Has it paid off?
Yeah, the gambling.
Well, I voted yes for the off-track betting.
Okay.
Okay. That hasn't quite hit our revenue projections that we thought for the village. I voted no, put it out there for everybody. I voted no for the video gaming, and I am just amazed by the amount of money that generates. I just couldn't believe it. So
What about the proposed negatives during the discussions, that would corrupt children in restaurants and things like that? Do you see any of that happening, or is that still an issue?
Well, it was one of the questions we had for the police chief a couple of months ago when we had another applicant come in. Because to get a video gaming, you need a liquor license.
Right.
Okay. Well, if you have a liquor license, you can put the video machines in.
It's like a double whammy.
That's
for
right.
Some people.
That's right. To some people it is. So we asked the chief. It says, have you had any incidents? Any violations? Because there's restrictions on minors,
Right.
Being there, and he had none.
Yeah.
He had none. So we haven't really had any incidents with video gaming. So.
Yeah. I'll give you
How about all these pinball games in the taverns and stuff?
Pinball games?
Slot machines.
That's what he's talking
That's what I'm
about.
referring to.
The
Video
game.
gaming?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They've been paying off.
They've been paying off amazingly well.
Fantastic. And, you
Better
know,
than the OTB.
and it's been helping businessmen in town too,
Yes. Yes.
because they're surviving now.
Right. Gives them a little more, gives them a
Yeah.
percentage of whatever the gambling is there. And some of them it's tough having a business, everybody sees, you got your own business, you got a lot of money, It doesn't work that way.
Well, one of the things that happened
Well, you
before
know
this
that-
came,
I know.
You know,
before
you're
this came
the
about.
bad.
Go ahead, Dennis.
How's the small businesses coming to town? Are they surviving? Or are they coming and going?
Well, most of them we have more businesses in town now than we've had for a number of years.
Yes, you
Matter of
have.
fact, I was just looking at that figure today because we got an auditor's report and he had the count on it. There are more now. I don't see as many empty stores, but like any business, so some come and some go. There's always a little bit of a turnover. I'd like to see a few more restaurants in town, but
Why would you want to see more restaurants?
because first you have people coming in town from not here, you
Yeah.
know. You have sales tax revenue, and usually they have a liquor license, and you got extra taxes on that, and
Just the quality of
just the
life.
quality of life. The
Yeah.
residents, would like to have some a little more upscale, So
But every town you see around, got restaurants coming and going
I know
very fast.
that's a tough business to be
It's
in.
very tough right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have waitresses and you got other people who are working, you don't have the help. You know?
Mhm. Luckily now, most of our restaurants are occupied now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
in town.
yeah. There's been turnover, a lot of those.
Right.
Okay, I want to get to now the fact that you are proposing to move from being a trustee to village president.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things that you think are different in the role that you'll be in if you are elected president?
Well, when you're a trustee, you're talking, let me put it this way, if you're a president, you're talking to more elected officials in the county. You're talking to more people who have influence in the county and in the state. You get better contact to your state representatives, your state senator that represents your district, and the same way with the county board. So that's why I would like to be the president, because there's a few issues I'd like to push forward. Or if you're a trustee, you're just a trustee. You don't get those contacts.
Okay, I'm going to jump on that right away.
I
what
knew
just
you
said.
would. That's why I set you up.
What are those issues?
Well, there's one that I've been working on for years, and if you'll hear it from the county, is consolidation of services.
Okay.
The days, in my opinion,
More than a mosquito abatement?
more than mosquito abatement, which we didn't go with the mosquitoes this year. We decided to go on our own, even though they put a group together.
Yeah.
But I knew right away when I got on the board, with the cost of things nowadays, we just can't do all this ourselves. Every town cannot do all these, cannot contract out or bid out their own little road patching projects.
Right.
You need to work with your neighboring communities and put those projects in a bundle, and you get a better price.
Right.
So it took a little while, I talked to enough people, and things are coming around. We do more this last year with consolidation of road repairs, not the big construction projects like we did with the road referendum money, but patching,
Right. Resurfacing.
stuff. And we save money on doing that. There's more things that we could do with buying supplies together. Well, we already do the salt, which we were
Yes,
doing for
the
years
state,
when you
yeah.
guys with this through the state.
Yeah.
So salt for the roads in the wintertime. Well, one of my other projects I'd like to work on is consolidating fire districts and fire departments. Some of that work has already been done by the chiefs working together and picking out what equipment should you get in Villa Park, and what equipment do they have in Lombard and Elmhurst. So when there is a call, they know we all don't need the same piece of equipment.
One example is
Right.
Villa Park once had a ladder truck,
That's right.
and now we do not because there's ladder trucks in
Oh,
every
wow.
Yeah, they all have
surrounding
snorkels
Right.
now. So now if we need one, the neighbor Elmhurst has one, Lombard
They're on
has
their
one.
way
They're on the way.
Yeah.
So that's why we could get rid of that ladder truck. It really didn't have a need anymore.
Right.
When you
So-
talk about consolidation, you talking about bringing the two departments into one?
Yes,
Darien, Woodridge?
down the road a ways, not immediately,
Okay.
Because there are issues.
there are issues. There's big issues
Right.
that need to be worked. Pensions are a big one,
Right.
and then every little district has their own little fiefdom. So it's political,
Right. Right.
and that's going to take time to work out. So, but I would like to push that some more. So
But
I think
is-
the chiefs have gone as far as they can go with equipment. The rest is a political.
Is that union busting? That's what they're telling you.
No, there would still be a union. I don't see a union busting. They would still be unionized. Maybe not as many unions, but there would still be unionized. And I think
As many
there's
locals, right.
not as many locals.
They're all the same union.
Yeah.
So, and I think some guys say, well, what about the positions, my chance for advancement, stuff like that. And I think they would be better because you got a bigger department, you have a few more layers of command,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So they give them a better opportunity for advancement. Of course, you wouldn't need all the chiefs, but sorry.
Yeah.
You know, Al, I can remember back years ago when a fellow that had been a fire chief in Villa Park. That was in the days when the fire department elected their own chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And he had said, yes, we've got about 3 times the amount of fire equipment that would ever be needed in DuPage County. And it was just what you said. Well, by coming down and getting together like we have done recently, when I say recently, folks, it could be several years, many years, but at talking together, we still in Villa Park, we still here. You control, or we control you, and you control the fire department. Will be even more so when you're elected president. You got that when I said elected. That we are cutting down on cost without cutting down any services.
That's right.
And the multi-call lines, answering a call because it might be, say, a 2-story apartment, might get a call from us to go to Lombard or Lombard to come here. Even if it's not needed, at that particular time, it's giving us the service. It's giving us all the service, and that makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense to me was, it was mentioned that Salt Creek Sanitary District and Elmhurst Sanitary District should merge. And I thought, oh my golly, we've had so much different individual people talking about how Elmhurst gets everything and we get nothing, or Villa Park, the Taj Mahal in Villa Park. So I would say, things like that are better under local control.
Oh, I agree with you. You know, you don't consolidate just for the sake of consolidating. You know, there has to make economic sense.
Right.
You know, and when you bring up the Salt Creek Sanitary District, when that I first heard about a possible merger or taking over by the village or by the county, it didn't make any sense to me because they're working fine. You know,
Even though they're adjacent to each other.
right.
On Route 83.
Elmhurst and ours.
Right.
But the Salt Creek Sanitary District works fine. You know, they don't levy any taxes on us.
I got to get Dennis in the shot.
It's all, he'll be in a minute. He's probably chomping at the bit. You know, there's no tax levy. It's all user based. You know, their financials are fine. So there's no point in consolidating that.
Let me
my
jump in
opinion.
here. Dennis, I want to make sure the audience knows Dennis is a trustee on the Salt Creek Sanitary District, which is one of the two that you're just talking about. Do you agree with everything he said?
But the county did come with a study. They did a study, and they said, "Oh, we got to merge," and they wanted the sanitary district to go to the village of Villa Park or to Elmhurst. So we did another study, and we're much financially better off than the village or Elmhurst Sanitary District.
Yeah.
So you know.
What was the outcome?
Well, the outcome was we're going to stay our own. We can work with the village on their treatment plants. Their treatment plant's in bad shape, and there's nothing unusual about it.
Right.
But we could work with them more. You take that over or something like that. But we have to talk,
Yeah.
and I think they are.
Well, you know, one thing is the cost to the residents, which I think is being managed properly.
That's right.
It's not going to change significantly if you combine those two facilities, cost to the residents. It's more about maintenance of the facilities and ongoing growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the real issue in the sanitary district discussion?
We invited some of the trustees from Villa Park to the sanitary district, and we had one trustee come over there, and he sat through one of our meetings, and he says, "Well, what do you got? 20 people working here? 25 people?" And we said, "No, we got 8." "No, we got more than that." No, they didn't really know,
Yeah,
so we try to educate them.
right.
Village
Yeah.
trustee was that or
Yeah,
county?
village trustee.
Oh, it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
He wasn't
I've
trying
been to a
slide
meeting, but I wasn't me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so that's why I want to run for president, because there's some issues that, as a trustee, you don't get the ear of the people you need to make those changes.
And that is other districts, other mayors, other
Right.
managers, et cetera.
And the county level and everything.
Right.
So.
Not only for camaraderie, but because you get things done.
Right.
Okay. All right. How about at the state level? I mean, at the state level, I know that sometimes our president goes down there and talks directly with the governor, along with other mayors and presidents. How do we get better? I mean, it has improved, right, in terms of state getting revenue back to the village
Right.
in recent years. But projects that need to be done here in the community may require not just federal money, but state money, right?
Well, state money's kind of hard to come by
That's
now.
what I'm asking.
You know, so
You get promised.
yeah, you get promised, and then you have to wait to see it show up. We've gotten some state money this last year.
Well, we have a bridge that we have to take care of on St.
Yes,
Charles Road, right?
yes.
So how does that figure into that?
That's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, 'cause we're responsible for it, right? Because it's on the border. between us and others.
I still need some clarification on who the responsibility for that is.
I think Village of Villa Park is.
That's
We're talking to folks about
there
the
was a
bridge on
deal-
St. Charles Road going over Salt Creek Lane, just west of Route 83.
right.
There was a deal made some 40 years ago
Uh-huh.
about that bridge.
Some kind of trade or something,
There
right?
was a trade that we took over St. Charles Road. State used to plow,
Uh-huh.
maintain St. Charles Road,
Ah, okay,
and we took it over when we rebuilt it. And
okay,
they fixed it. They gave it to us then,
okay.
and that was a deal that we were maintaining from then on.
So, I mean, that's an important bridge because it's a major artery in our community. Yeah, onto Route 83. Where do we stand right now, in your opinion?
Where do we stand right now? In what
With the
respect?
state of Illinois?
Well, as it is right now, the state says it's our responsibility.
Okay.
My question is, when the agreement back to when it was made, how many years ago?
40.
40 years ago, says we are responsible for the maintenance. What's the definition of maintenance?
Versus rebuilt.
Right.
Okay.
So-
And I think 40 years ago when we did make the agreement, and I was involved 75, 77, the deal was we'd only go up to the bridge, Bergh Park. And the Elmer's is on the other side, right,
Right.
right next door. And there was nothing ever said about the bridge.
So there is a
A
little
dilemma.
there's a little dilemma now. The
It's a
last
little- it's, yeah,
last time we talked to the state, their interpretation was it's the Village of Villa Park's problem.
yeah.
So, but I'm going to have to ask for a legal determination on that.
Well, there is precedent or history with the state of Illinois on other bridges, and that is the Ardmore Bridge.
Right.
And there was a positive thing. Took a lot longer than everybody hoped for to get that bridge rebuilt because it was crumbling. And
It crumbled so fast.
Yeah.
That was one of the main
It
problems.
was a step up real quick.
Right. Whereas the bridge on St. Charles over to Salt Creek, it's been slower. So right now on the Salt Creek Bridge, we're in just at the end of stage 1 engineering,
Okay.
where they actually inspect the bridges and see what needs to be done. We're at the end of that, and the next will be stage 2, where they design.
Yeah.
So, but the one on Ardmore, it happened real quick. But the same way on the one on St. Charles over to Salt Creek, all of a sudden the state inspected it and they moved up its rating, or moved down its rating.
Right.
So that's why we got into the
To some
process.
more stringent weight limits, right?
Right.
Okay. And the weight station's right there, too.
Yeah.
But the Ardmore Bridge is different than the St. Charles Bridge because that came from the county.
Mm-hmm.
That was the county bridge. Now, Sid would probably remember when it was wood over there. With the wood bridges over the top at the beginning.
For the horses?
The WPA built that bridge, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And tell everybody what WPA is. The
Work progress. During the Depression.
Yes.
I think there was a camp on North Avenue, wasn't there, a WPA
That I
camp?
can't tell you. I can tell you that
Putting people to work that were out of work during the Depression.
During Depression, right.
Okay.
Work progress.
I knew that before the bridge was built, there was no Ardmore Avenue north of what was then the Northwestern Line. The
Yeah.
UP line.
Okay. All right, let me get back now to some of the things that we want to talk about. Your role here, and that is, besides those things about being connected as the president, the village president, if you're elected, to other officials around the area, what are some of the things that you want to accomplish as a board leader, as a village president in the next 4 years?
Mhm. Well, we got a good track record started. And I think what helps that keep going is some continuity. So, we don't need people, in my opinion right now, to change direction. So I would like this to continue what we're doing. We've got a track record in the last 10 years in improvements and moving the village forward, and we need to continue with that. But we still have to concentrate on the North Ave corridor. That area, there's a lot of, still some empty land up there, not a whole lot, but it could use some sprucing up. So I think that's one issue we have to work on. Roosevelt Road corridor, that's in pretty good shape. That thing works pretty well. So, and we have to continue to concentrate on our Villa Avenue district, the Old Town Villa Avenue area.
Right.
We made a lot of improvements there, and we have to continue with those too.
Yeah.
So that, and we got a big issue we have to work with is the swimming pool and the Parks Department, and we're working through that right now. And I just want to make sure that we continue with that because we have a lot of young families moving into Villa Park, and they look at the rec department.
Mm-hmm.
And our rec department does fine. Could use a little sprucing up, some new modern, make it a little more modern, and to poll the residents to see what they want compared to what we have now. As times change over the years, and the needs and what people would like change. But we made some great progress in that with the rec department. But with the pools, we have a big issue with the pools that needs to be addressed shortly.
Right.
So,
right.
and that's got to work on that. So.
Okay. One of the things that has happened in the past on issues like this, the pools and streets and sanitary sewers and stuff like that, was a lot of outreach that you were involved with as a board member, going out to the community, whether it was town hall meetings or other, you do coffees on Saturday mornings sometimes with residents that want to come in. Do you plan to continue that, expand that, change that in any way?
Well, we have to continue it. Continue it. If you have needs and changes that need to be made, first you have to listen to the residents. So that's when you have town hall meetings. Those are basically informing residents what you'd like to do. But with the coffee with the board, you listen when the residents come in with their ideas, or if you make yourself available to the residents and to hear what they want, so you know which direction. We need information. We want to make them give them what the desires are and make the community better.
Well, in each of those town halls, I think you were present because I get the opportunity to record them sometimes, and that's always good to hear your feedback when you're at those sessions from the trustees, so you know where are you thinking. Because when it comes to a vote, there's 7 people, maybe 6 that are going to vote, and now decisions are made. So it's good to have the voice of the people here in the village to do that.
And those town halls will continue. You'll have your yearly report town hall meeting on the state of the village, which is important to continue. So maybe we'll make that a little shorter because sometimes it gets a little drawn out.
That's a 2-tape system for us, 16 plus.
But we, one thing we have to make sure we allow though is plenty of time for resident comments and questions, because that's where you really find out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to, it gets kind of contentious, but you need to hear it.
Yeah.
So.
And in my opinion, sometimes you always hear from a small group of negative, where it doesn't really represent the entire village's perspective. It's the squeaky wheel thing that sometimes people react to. So I'm glad that there's more opportunities for the village residents to come out and say what they want. Because, for example, in the road referendum, there was a lot of people that said, my street, my street, my street. And a lot of other people said, we got to have this because all the other streets that I drive down in this town are poor, not just mine.
Yeah.
So you get that balance when you have more opportunities like that than just the squeaky wheels that come to sessions to complain.
One of the we could call it a challenge is when you have those meetings, let's take the road referendum, is to get the whole community to feel the sense I'm part of the community. Just because my street's in good shape, or I don't have trouble with my sewer, my neighbor down the street does, and we should help him out too, because mine was done, he helped me out.
Right.
So it's the whole sense of community which you have to try to develop. And I think, boy, you're not going to make it if you don't have a whole sense of everybody helping each other out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, one of the things we mentioned briefly before is the library is coming up on the ballot with your ballot as a village president, and we just had a presentation by the director of the library systems to come over, the library board as well. And they have kind of a different relationship with the village. They're their own entity, yet we support them. Is that correct? Do I have that right? I just want to get a clarification.
I think in the accounting world it's called a discrete component government or entity.
Wow, okay.
So they're part of the village. They have their own board. They have their own tax base.
Right.
But when they make up their budget, the village board has to approve their budget because they're really still part of the village. So they're with the village, but really not with the village. Now, if they go off for referendum for a bond issue, well, they're only allowed to bond based on how much the state law says the village has available for bonding.
Okay. The bond bucket.
The bond bucket.
Yeah.
So if their referendum passes, it comes out of the village's bond bucket.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So and there's only so much money in there. So they are part of the village, but they operate independently.
Okay. And there was a great presentation that was done by the director and also the board member,
Right.
board chairman.
Chairman.
Chairperson. and we got that in one of the village board meetings. You'll be able to see that on the YouTube site if you want to take a look at that. One more question, then I'm going to give you 1 minute to address our audience and say whatever you like.
Okay.
Okay? Other than those things that we've talked about before, is there anything else that you see as an opportunity that we haven't yet addressed here in the village of Bulthuis in the next 4 years?
So you're asking me what have we been ignoring, possible?
Answer the way you like. Yes.
Well, that's a good question. I mentioned earlier, we have to address the swimming pool issues,
Yes.
And we've been putting Band-Aids on that for years.
Yes.
But it's getting to the point where you can't buy a big enough Band-Aid. And the cost is just, I can't tell you how much water that flows out of that pool because it's got in the underground supply. So that's a big issue that, it's going to be a tough decision. It's going to have to be a decision that goes to the residents to see what we want to do. So, and because it's basically boils down to money.
Right.
Hey, how are you going to finance it? Where's it going to be? So, I think that's the biggest thing we're going to have coming up shortly.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Why
Well,
can't you finance it through mutual aid with the high schools, grammar schools, make one big pool and have them it pool's empty now
yeah.
all year from now until next summer.
That question has been come up, a joint pool.
Joint pool.
Yeah.
We have the property there. We could put a big building there. The village has the property there. You could put it. You could use it all year round instead
Right.
of just 3 months a year.
I agree, but that's going to take a bit more discussion. So
Well,
that's
they
all.
call that communication with each other. Yes.
We have a good relationship with 88 and 45, and even 48, even though they have a small part of the village. So,
I've seen other communities now, and since I've been out of the village, they once a year they get together. They have a meeting with all the town meeting, with the county board members from their district. They get somebody from the state. They get somebody from the school district. They all come together. They tell their ideas to each other, and they're surprising what they come up with. They have no idea.
it's a good idea. So, we've done that as a village with the board members and all the staff members.
You're very good with that. Yes.
Make a long-range plans, and goals and objectives. So,
But
yeah.
you have no idea what's going on around the high schools and everything else. Maybe you do. I mean, the county, the members of the village board,
Yeah.
they do not.
Well, like I said, we've had a good relationship with 88 and 45, especially now we're working on water and storm issues, and they're going to be in the mix on what to do with all this water, storm water, and where we're going to put it, where we're going to store it. So, so we've had a number of discussions on that, and we've also ran the idea about the joint pool. So
cool.
that
All right.
takes time.
We got 2 minutes, and I promised you 1 minute at the end.
Well, I'll just take one.
All right. I'm going to give you opportunity to speak directly to the audience and give your pitch for your election in April. So
All right.
you're on. Go.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say to the Village of Villa Park, the residents there, thank you very much for the opportunity to be a village trustee for 10 years. And I would like your support for be a village president in the upcoming election. We've laid out in this tape some of my accomplishments and the goals that I have for things I'd like to accomplish in the next as president. And I encourage you all to come out and vote, because without the support of the village and the support of people in the village willing to work and help make the village better, we need your support, and I think I could deliver for you. So, I know that's not 2 minutes, that's not a minute, but
I didn't time.
I know you have some filler.
Yeah. Well, I just want to give Dennis the last chance. Dennis, you got 20 seconds. Anything
No,
else?
it's been very interesting. New campaign going again now,
Yeah.
and it's
They're always happen.
good luck to you and your campaign.
Thanks.
Sid, Anything? 20
Knowing,
seconds.
knowing all three of the candidates, I can sincerely hope, and I think they will, run a very gentlemanly type campaign. Now there'll be issues
Positive.
that will come up, but I just hope it's not like our last election, and I don't think it will be, where the candidates have all called each other, you're not qualified because you're a dirty dog, and they didn't say anything about why the dirty dog is dirty, but they just stick to issues. Stick to the issues.
I know, we hope they do. We hope they do. Okay, we have to cut it off there because we're at the end of our session. So I want to thank Al Bulthuis, our guest here today. Al, always good to have you.
All right.
It's your second time here, so thanks for
Yep.
coming back. We didn't scare you away the first time.
No, you didn't.
All
You're
right.
glutton for
And,
punishment.
We wish you good luck as we do all the others that are on the ballot and more positive things for the village of Villa Park. I just want to thank you again for watching. I'm Al Stasch. Thanks for being a visitor and viewer of our Uptown Villa Park. We're glad to be back here in 2017, and we will see you next time.